Hello and welcome once again to Superconnectivity. Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me as always is the plan, the man, the leader with his super gamma augmented brain.
Phil, me, and Parrish. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's the one. There's only two people on this podcast this time, Phil. Sometimes I try to catch you and Lilith off guard, but this time it's really just you. Unless Luca runs in and says, "It's Luca!" That's what I wanted. Oh, he's a cool kid.
I am home alone.
Oh my goodness. I am never home alone. I have not been home alone. I mean, yes, my producer is not here tonight. I will grant that. But yeah, I'm still not at home alone. I still got friends and other children. Yes, and we just paid the phone bill. Because you got to pay those bills or they don't give you a phone. And if you don't have a phone, you can't look for jobs. And that's
adulting.
Yeah, adulting. Ugh. Adulting sucks. I like it better when the adults did all the adulting. Why did we have to grow into become adults and do adulting? This is what, Of course, my brother, he is he's a gentleman who opted to not adult. And unfortunately, at a certain point in your life, you have to adult or you live under a bridge. So, yeah, family. What are you going to do? It's complex, man. Not going to burden you, fair listeners, with the plight of Charlie Esser and the entire clan of my family and what to do about ne'er-do-well siblings. If you have a ne'er-do-well sibling, I feel for you. He's not really like ne'er-do-well. It's not like he's a bad guy. He's just, never really wanted to adult. And that's one of these weird things. It's like, what do you do with a guy who just doesn't want to adult?
Okay, calm down, Thor.
Well, that's why Odin made him into Don Blake. Although, yeah, not for nothing, Odin, you're going to make your son a successful surgeon in New York City. Yeah, that's a way to teach him humility. We're gonna, that doesn't even put him in a wheelchair. Just, I'm going to give you like a limp, so you'll have a limp, and that's going to teach you humility. Although, perhaps that was perhaps Odin was as wise as he seems, because the idea was making him a surgeon in New York City, like Doctor Strange, making him a man who has opportunity to just feel superior to every person he meets, intellectually, financially, however you want, but give him that one thing he can't do. That the more you have, having one thing you can't do is what teaches you humility. To that extent, I mean, arguably, what taught Thor humility in the first place was that he could not lift his hammer. This is a bit retcon, but the idea that, the hammer is only there for the worthy, that's what teaches you humility. That no matter how powerful you are, there is one thing you cannot do. And that's what teaches you humility or drives you mad and even more power hungry. Which we won't get into.
Well, it's kind of relevant in this, today too, because once again, he can't lift the hammer.
But that's the thing about Thor right now. I don't know if it's that he can't lift the hammer or that he won't try.
He doesn't want to.
Because here's the thing, right? Well, what it is right now Thor sees himself as unworthy. And this is why I think the entire Secret Empire plotline with Cap lifting the hammer as Hydra is really kind of throwing Thor for a loop where he doesn't know what is up and what is down anymore. He knows Hydra Cap isn't worthy of that. But again, like I said, Hydra Cap hasn't lifted that hammer first time since before Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
When Cap was just a politician arguing for something, arguing for safer streets and a better world, he was still worthy. Once he starts to make those choices, that's when he ceases to become worthy. And I guarantee you that's going to be a scene coming up, which is Cap coming up, grabbing the hammer and going, and not being able to lift it like so much Tony Stark, and just everyone realizing, oh, you're not worthy anymore, are you? Whatever it was that, that spell is broken. You cannot lift that hammer. Yeah, I mean that's a thing. Um, what do you think, Phil? How do you think about hubris and power, and what is the one thing you can't do?
What's one thing I can't do?
Well, what's the one thing
Uh,
that keeps you humble?
I don't know.
There's so many things that keep me humble. I do understand that. It's hard to pick just one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving right along. Because actually that was a completely unscripted rant. That wasn't one of my planned rants for tonight. My rant for tonight is about the Hand, Iron Fist, Daredevil, and the amazing Peggy Carter, and where we go next in the Marvel integrated cinematic television universe. Because right now, me and Maz in the Devil are, well, actually, I don't even know. That's not even on right now. Right now, we're still doing Jessica Jones because Rob hasn't posted the Devil yet because he's waiting for something. I don't know what. But
it's Charlie. It's Maz.
Yeah, I mean it's great. Here's the thing. I listened to all those episodes before. I don't think I think he finished the series when we posted him the first time to it. I don't know. Rob's organizing it as he wants to. But right now I'm doing all this stuff with Daredevil season 2 as a rewatch, and I realized something that I had never realized before. So right now we just got to 7 Minutes in Heaven, which means we just finished Guilty as Sin. 7 Minutes in Heaven is the very flashbacky episode where you find out what the Kingpin has been doing since he got put in jail, and basically rebuilding his empire from within inside the prison. And Guilty as Sin is where we first introduced the concept of a black sky. Spoilers, we haven't yet found out that Electro was supposed to be a black sky. But also in Guilty as Sin, we get this first introduction of the Farm, which is the Hand draining blood from people for a purpose. And we know that purpose is to feed the big cauldron thingy that we know is what you use to bring people back from the dead. Okay. We also get in Guilty as Sin the statement from Stick, who I got in a whole rant about whitewashing with Stick because I am so mad that no one blinked when a white guy was Stick. Granted, Stick is supposed to be ambiguous in the Marvel comic book universe. He was basically drawn to look like David Carradine, if you remember. So I understand that they're going for that David Carradine vibe, but still, in Guilty as Sin, they do sort of suggest that he actually is supposed to be Asian, even though they're doing nothing to make him Asian. So it's like, it's an annoyance for me. It's an annoyance for me that didn't get to be a problem, but somehow Tilda Swinton was a problem, and Fist is a problem. It's like, why wasn't it a problem when it was Stick? Why was that the one that you were going to give the pass to? But anyway, that I did that rant on the Devil which about 4 years from now you'll get to listen to. So anyway, but here's the thing. In that episode, Guilty as Sin, this Stick says that essentially what happened was the Hand was just another group of criminals who found something. And he makes the point that they found it. They didn't create it. They didn't devise it. They just found it. And what they found was something that can bring you back from the dead. And we'll go, oh, bring back the dead. Isn't that amazing? And we've already seen someone get brought back from the dead. His name was Phil, first name Agent Coulson. He'd already been brought back from the dead. And how was he brought back, Phil? Do you remember?
No, I remember Tahiti. It's a magical place.
You remember Tahiti? It was the home base protocol. The home base protocol, which used the corpse
Kree
of a Kree alien that the Nazis were holding. Nazis had a lot of interactions with Japan, you may recall, maybe had some dealings with the Hand. The home base protocol is what brought Phil Coulson back to life. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When you look at the home base protocol, what it is this injection of this rarefied Kree DNA into your system, which essentially has an ultra healing factor for reasons. because, reasons. The ultra healing factor will bring you back from the dead. But as we see with the purified home-based protocol, it also drives you mad. Unless, as with Daisy, you already have Kree DNA in your system. It's already an inhuman. Home-based protocol does not drive you mad. For what it's worth, we also found that if you come to understand what the home-based protocol is trying to tell you, you can overcome your madness, as happened to Phil Coulson in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We know that throughout the human population are humans with at least some inhuman DNA. And you can even make the argument that all humans have some inhuman DNA. Much in the same way that you made the argument back when mutants were a thing in the Marvel Universe, that all humans had that mutant X gene, it was just a question of its activation. So, what if what the hand found technology meant to extract Kree DNA from human subjects so that it can be focused into a single body? And then what if the people in the farms aren't just random folks with Kree DNA in them? And here's the reason why I came to this assumption. In 7 Minutes in Heaven, we find out the reason the Roxxon accountant is so loyal to the hand is because they kidnapped his son and put him in the farm. Now, here's why that's weird. It's not like Roxxon accountants are some paragons of moral virtue. These aren't people who you need to bribe or manipulate. You just have to pay them. If money is given to them, they will do it. You don't need to create the Hydra incentive program where you hold their children hostage to get them to participate. It's no, we're fine. Okay. Did my check bounce? No. Okay, then I'm good. It's not like rocks. It's like, oh, you want me to sell heroin? Ooh, horrible heroin. You want me to hide your heroin in the books? Okay, yeah. That's cute, hand. Did you not know we are Roxxon? We are actively destroying not only this world, but the 9 realms as well, because there's money in it. All for avarice. Why does the hand feel the need to control his son? They don't. They just realize that his son, and possibly the accountant as well, Kree DNA that they need for their other side project. And what a black sky is, and this is the thing. And fun fact, they call it a black sky. And what was Chloe Bennett's original name on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Sky.
Yes. What if a black sky is someone who already has a great deal of inhuman DNA, possibly a natural inhuman themselves, and then you infuse them with the Kree DNA? It may not make them go through teragenesis, but may up themselves into something so much more than human once you reawaken them. And this is sort of what we're looking at, is this idea that what if the connections of the Marvel television cinematic universe have not been forgotten? What if it is all still very much connected, but that people don't want to say it out loud, but it's going to come up elsewhere? So in Homecoming, you see a Howler alive and well and young in the 21st century. And yeah, it was, that's his grandson. That's not his grandson. That ain't his grandson. That is the man himself who fought next to Captain America, who was the first test subject for the home-based protocol. And he gained that eternal youth and power and strength because of the Kree DNA, because he actually was inhuman as well. But you didn't know it back then. That's just what he was. And that's why he continues on as sort of this Nick Fury. More to the interesting point, we're going to get in 1990, whenever we get the Captain Marvel film, it's set in the 90s. That's right. Captain Marvel's in the 90s, Wonder Woman's in the 80s. So you have Captain Marvel set in the 90s, which means Peggy Carter is still active, which means you're either going to get some interesting things where you start to see some slight signs of dementia, or my big fan theory, You're going to see her experimenting with the home-based protocol on herself to keep her strong and fit. And you'll see that it starts to work a bit, that a little bit of a home-based infinity formula gives her that little bit of pep in her step. But you also see that she starts having some mental issues as well, which eventually manifest as dementia once she is no longer the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and she loses her access to her infinity form. And that's how we get to demented Peggy Carter at the end in Captain America, Winter Soldier. And, of course, how she imparts to Nick Fury how to be a head of S.H.I.E.L.D. in Captain Marvel. You watch, mark my words, the Captain Marvel film is a backdoor Peggy Carter, Nick Fury film in which Captain Marvel shows up.
I could tie all the hand stuff into the MCU. Kinda. There's a small link, and maybe they could even explore in Captain Marvel in the '90s. Guess who they showed in the Daredevil comic? Who I don't know if they were like trying to plan like an alliance back in the day, but guess who was like, oh no, I don't need your hand and your beast. My Aryan Brotherhood will take this world.
Red Skull, or
Close.
was it
Strucker?
Oh, Strucker, yeah. I want to call him Sucker. No, Strucker. Yes. Oh, and fun fact about the Struckers. Here's the thing to watch when the Gifted comes out. Watch for the father to be driving a Volkswagen.
A German car?
And have him mention how important German engineering is. Because as I'm going to say, the Struckers aren't mutants. They are genetically engineered. Just like Toad was. Because it's about people, it's about humans trying to control the X gene. And that's what the story of the Struckers is going to be. They have the randomized X gene, and then you have the controlled X gene. Because the entire plot of Logan was it Logan? No. Was it Logan? The last film? The last film was Logan, right?
Spider-Man?
No.
Oh, you mean Fox? Yeah, Logan, yeah.
Logan, yeah, because remember, wait, was Logan the first one? No, the first one was the Wolverine or something like that. Anyway, yes. So, because it was Wolverine Origins. What was the middle one called?
Wolverine.
The Wolverine. Okay, and then it comes to Logan. But here's the thing: that the plot of Logan is about controlling the X gene, about suppressing it in the general population and awakening it where you want it. And you're going to get that hint in The Gifted because it is about the last few mutants who are surviving and the Strucker twins who are the forced awakened mutants. That's your plot line, but look, and you're going to find that Nazi tie-in with the Struckers. But yeah, but here's the thing, it's important to remember that, Gorgon is a member of the Hydra Inner Circle, and it is important to remember that Japan was part of the original Axis. And as the Nazis did with so many other groups who weren't officially Aryan, wrote entire backstories to headcanon why the Japanese were Aryans, even if the Chinese weren't. Even though technically China is closer to India, which is where the Aryans arguably came from. So, Nazis, they're stupid. Well, Nazis are just nerds. And they're gonna headcanon anything that doesn't fit the facts. Basically, they're gonna recreate the facts to fit their headcanon, and that's why Nazis can hang out with the Japanese, because they're just gonna headcanon. No, we've decided you're Aryans. We just decided it. No, we've headcanoned it. It's perfect. It works.
Well,
racism is stupid.
You know what the Nazis say? You take the good, you take the bad. Facts of life.
Yeah, well, there you go. Okay, so that's my grand theory of how the Inhumans and the Kree fit into everything, and that we're going to get Skrulls. Well, kind of speaks in an interesting way to it, because then it becomes this question of, that Skrull war with the Kree. Are we proxies in it? Are we active in it? Are we fighting for the Kree?
Are we
against the Skrulls? Yeah, or are the Skrulls just attacking us because, hey, they know we got a bunch of Kree in us? I wonder if they're going to make Captain Marvel an Inhuman.
Maybe.
Or maybe.
It was a Kree machine that gave her powers.
Okay, you want to know what Captain Marvel is?
What?
Captain Marvel's a black sky. Captain Marvel is this attempt by Peggy Carter in the 90s. Because let's face it, in the 90s, so here's what's happening in the 90s. She's got Banner working on his gamma cure. Because basically, so here's the premise. Peggy Carter is feeding Banner home base formula to help him with his gamma resistance. He has to develop it by the time of the year 2000. So he has to start that work in the 90s. It takes a long time to do scientific experiments, So by the time he's starting, he's got to be working on this for years and years and years. He's young grad student Banner when Peggy Carter first singles him out.
Oh, I like it. So what? So Peggy Carter's, maybe her and the others discover that there is like a Skrull invasion coming, or they've discovered the Kree stuff, so they're trying to create heroes. There's not that many superheroes. There's like really no superheroes yet.
Exactly. So Peggy Carter is being totally Nick Fury in this, and she has Banner working on this stuff, but she doesn't tell what Banner he's working on, and basically pulling that data and having it reanalyzed through Arnim Zola, your friend and mine, and then they find this young pilot who genetically meets the criteria that Zola has determined looking at Banner's studies to be the most likely candidate,
or maybe
that's young Carol Danvers.
Maybe it's like the comic. Maybe it's not even intentional. Maybe she's in the wrong place or right place. How you look at it at the time, and one of their experiments goes kablooey, and
here's what I'm going to say.
Because then she spends the movie trying to prove herself, because they're like, we weren't going to get, you weren't the one we're going to give these powers to.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not writing the film, so it's hard for me to say.
Yeah.
But here's what I'm going to say. I think that what makes logical sense to me is that Peggy. Here's what I'm going to tell you. They're going to keep that Peggy Carter is in Captain Marvel under wraps until like a week before it premieres in London. They're going to have Peggy Carter sworn to secrecy. Don't tell anyone you're in this, because everyone's going to figure it out once they realize you're in it. And I guarantee you that, because what they're going to do is they're going to make it a Peggy Carter, because they just kick the butt of a Bechdel test with that, with two military women just talking business the whole time, both with the names and both working forward, and
the hero's a woman, the boss is a woman.
Exactly. And you're going to get this idea, because remember, Carol Danvers is in Air Force intelligence. And what does the Air Force do? Remember, Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is an Air Force general, not an Army general. People always make that mistake, but his uniform is blue. He's an Air Force general because the Air Force is in charge of alien invasions. So when the Air Force is when alien technology falls upon the Earth, it's the Air Force that's first on the scene. And you might even like a young. They're probably, it'll be fun. They're going to age up Haley Atwell. They're going to like dye. Who plays Ross in the movies?
I forget.
They're going to dye his hair and mustache red and give him a nice give him a nice good hairpiece. So it's like, oh, hey, I'm a young upstart general, man. Don't mess with me, Ms. Carter. I'm USAF, and I'm in charge of all alien stuff.
Now that you say that, yeah, Thunderbolt Ross is in the Air Force, would be in charge of like all, the planetary defense and all the alien stuff.
Exactly.
So he would also probably have the knowledge of like maybe a place where he could shoot off a pain in his butt, namely the Hulk. Could that be part of Ragnarok? Do we get that reveal that
Ross
the Hulk wasn't
Hulk into space?
That the Illuminati did it in the comics.
It's an interesting idea. Oh, was Ross Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense in by the time Age of Ultron started?
Did they say? I don't know if they said or not.
They didn't say, but could he have been? It's not a question of was he, it's could he have been?
Oh, I'm sure he probably could have. Because how long was that gap between the Incredible Hulk movie and Age of Ultron? There's a couple years there.
Yeah. So let's say that yes, Ross is. Maybe that's how Hulk winds up in space. Oh, wouldn't that be amazing?
And then
If
that's a bargaining chip he has for the Avengers to sign the Sokovian Accords. Because remember, that was one of his big points in Civil War. He was like, well, you lost track of Thor and Banner. Where are they at?
Yeah, maybe he's the one who knows. Thanks for filling me in, Phil Parrott. Brilliant fan theory. Oh, man. Oh, okay. So those are my Marvel fan theories, and I think that's a good amount of fan theories for this week. I do have a DC fan theory that we just came up with on the train home today. You know it as well as I do, Phil, because I was texting you the whole time. Because here is my mark my words for what's going to happen when Superman fights Dr. Manhattan. So Dr. Manhattan, he's using his quantum magic powers at Superman. But Superman's Kryptonian DNA, powered by solar energy, his molecules are being held in place. It is essentially the irresistible force meeting the immovable object, because much like Boulder, Superman, his powers are focused on that endurance. He has all the other powers as well, but he has that intense power for endurance, meaning you can't knock his cells out of place, his molecules out of place. And that's what Dr. Manhattan does. And they're fighting, and of course, Dr. Manhattan will get the upper hand, and he will say to Superman, "You are truly a Superman, but you are just a man, whereas I am a god." And then Superman will say, "Yeah, do you know what the difference between men and gods are? Men have friends." And then you see Firestorm Dr. Manhattan into lead, converting all of his hyper-energized molecules into inert chemicals. Because what it is Superman, when they realize what they're up against, Batman, who, as luck would have it, has a file on Dr. Manhattan because he's been researching this stuff for a while and figured out how he would defeat a guy like Dr. Manhattan. It's Firestorm, who is the actual DC Quantum Superman, who can manipulate things on that molecular level. And that's how they defeat Dr. Manhattan.
Because I was telling you, Firestorm can't affect organic matter, but Dr. Manhattan is what? Quantum energy.
Well, he's quantum energy, and not for nothing, neither could the Molecule Man, until Jim Souter said, actually, yes, you can. And that was the thing I was making a point about. It's like, you look at Alan Moore, I deconstructed superheroes. I said, what would a real quantum Superman be? And it's like, did and the Squadron Supreme did, 2 years earlier than you did. You really stole some great ideas from Marvel. Both the idea of superheroes that maybe are somewhat villainous, and the idea of a being who had quantum powers, who, if you really understood those quantum powers, might be truly a god, which was what the entire plot of Secret Wars was Dr. Doom basically saying to the Molecule Man, there's actually no difference between organic and inorganic molecules. You can manipulate one just like you can manipulate the other. And that's that. I mean, will they make that point with Firestorm? Will they make the point that that Batman basically plays Dr. Doom to Firestorm and says, you can do it to organic matter as well. It's fine.
Or unless they do something on the theme like that and don't bring in Firestorm, but bring in the hero that Dr. Manhattan was based on, Captain Atom.
Well, the difference is that Captain Atom... See, here's the thing about Captain Atom. His powers aren't quantum mechanical. His powers are nuclear, which means that he has a containment suit, the fact that his molecules are constantly exploding.
They've been kind of playing with that recently. So
they have?
I don't know.
Okay, then maybe they do.
Yeah.
So there you go. Or you even have one better. They bring in both, because as Superman says, you may be a god, but a man has friend. Who is a friend to a god? And here's how you even put the nail in that coffin. Mr. Ozymandias, he's a good guy, because he was always a good guy. He knew the threat of Dr. Manhattan. He knew the threat of nuclear war and nuclear Armageddon. He knew what the threats were, and he wanted to help. And so he's the one who tells Batman about Dr. Manhattan. and basically just gives them the data load. And Batman and Ozymandias come up with the plan with who the superheroes are. And here is the thing. When you get to the Ultimates right now, and Ultimate Reed Richards, and how much in love he is with the universe he's found himself in, because the physics are so fantastic. That this is a universe where, real world, this couldn't happen. This is how things would be. Yeah, that don't apply here. This is a universe where magic happens, and magic is science, and these things you just have to go with it and just embrace the glory of it. And that is what Ozymandias is going to realize about the DC universe, is that this is a fantastic universe. This is a magical universe. Interestingly, back into the Ultimates right now, Owen Reese has instructed the maker to break down the barriers between all the different multiverses to create one uniform verse. And that looks like it's to the advantage of the what's his name? The first universe. But I think there's a deeper point in that, which is that no. No, actually what it is Ultimate Reed Richards is going to make the whole universe just as magical as the 616. I think he thinks that's the way universes should be. That there shouldn't be these universes where things have these orders and rules. It's like, no, everything should just be magic. And I think that's what Owen Reese wants as a Beyonder, because Owen Reese, as the Beyonder, wants to go back to that magical world of 1980s comic books. It is amazing it's amazing how much DC steals from Marvel. Or at least maybe Marvel just gets to the point faster, and so it looked like maybe they both came up with the idea at the same time, but DC just drags it out for 8 years, and Marvel's like, oh yeah, let's have that story, then we'll do another story. And it's all canon.
Yeah.
What do you think, Phil? What do you think of these insane, crazy rants I've been on tonight?
Oh, I'm sure. I see the logic in all of them, but I don't know. It's always just weird. It's just like, it's not real events. We have to guess the creativity of the creators.
Yeah, well, but that's the point of Superconnectivity. It's where we get our fan theories out early before they're all ruined by the writers.
That's right.
Before those darn writers come up with another idea that's not as good as our fan theories. You big old meanie writers and your cannon. Your big old cannons shooting everything down. See? Puns. It's a pun. Think about it. Because a cannon is different than a cannon. Canonical means of the book, whereas a cannon is just a big old gun. But when you make something canonical, it shoots down a theory, like a cannon might, shooting it down with the actual cannon. I forget which one has one end and which one has two ends. I always forget that. I always have to do the spell check on it. Okay.
Oh no, I think we're gonna have to enact some pun control here.
Yes, hey man, the First Amendment guarantees my right to bear puns. No, but I always write canonical when I want to write the word canon, because that tells you which canon I want. Because spell check will know what canonical is, and it'll know it, but it won't know which canon you want.
True.
So if you just say that's not a canon or that's not a canon, spell check says I have no idea which one you want. But if you say that's not canonical, or you can say that's canonical. But if you write canonical, it's going to tell you which one is canon as in canonical and which one is canon as in a big old gun. So that's how you make your choices.
Welcome to the Writer's Workshop.
Hey, you know what? I live for Grammar Girl. # Grammar Girl. # where I listen, right here in the kitchen. Hey, for fun podcasts, if you're looking for a podcast to listen to, you can't go wrong with Grammar Girl. Look for quick and dirty tips on your local podcastery, or however you find your podcasts. I like to plug these people, even though they'll never plug me. But I like them. And so if you are a grammar nerd like me, I had fun today at work. I noticed a funny grammatical error. There were a couple grammatical errors in like a form letter that one of the other folks had written at the office. And it was because it was about the dress code. And they said, open-toed shoes, halter tops, and bare midriffs are prohibited. Now, the problem is halter tops open-toed shoes, and bare midriffs aren't prohibited. Halter tops, open-toed shoes, or bare midriffs is prohibited. Because if you have or and is, it means each item singularly is prohibited. If you have and are, you say only those items together are prohibited. So I corrected it, and I pointed out to my boss. She says, "Oh yes, that is correct. That is the correct grammatical way to phrase that." They also had an A with our name, which starts with an R, but you pronounce the R, which means you actually have to use an and because you're using a vowel sound at the start of the name. That's a minor one. That's an easy one because you always know that it's A before a consonant, unless it's a consonant that is pronounced and then has a vowel sound.
Haven't you learned?
So R.
Haven't you learned how to get ahead at work? You don't point out your boss's mistakes. You say, "Oh, good job, boss."
No. What wasn't my boss's mistake?
Oh, okay.
And the most important way you do that, if you want to point out a boss's mistake, you say, "Oh, that's a funny mistake in this fully formed bit of a boilerplate we have at the office that I'm sure you had nothing to do with." That's an error. And they go, "Oh, yes, ha, ha, ha. That is quite an error. Good catch." Because so long as you don't say, "Hey, boss, you made a mistake," the boss is fine to notice a mistake. Mm-hmm. That's the trick. And about pointing out mistakes to your boss, you don't make it seem like you think it's the boss's mistake.
Good job, peon Esser.
Yeah, man. Oh, anything else to talk about this week, Phil?
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, I will say I still am. I have gained hope for Inhumans just because I'm a fool, and I do hope that they've just been progressively making Medusa's hair better, so that when we get to the actual Inhuman show, it will be proper Medusa hair and proper crystal and elemental power. I have hope because I'm a Catholic, and as a Catholic, you have to have faith. So that's the news from Superconnectivity this week, where all the men are good looking, all the women are strong, and all the theories are about that. Phil, if people would like to write to you or talk to you or leave you a voicemail, if they don't like to touch keys but just want to talk, how can they do so?
Well, you could get a hold of me personally, especially if you want to do an interview or any of you people on these other podcasts, any of the ones Charlie mentioned or like ones I listen to, like the Namor podcast. Get a hold of me on nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am at nightwingpdp. Capes and Lunatics is all over social media, and or voicemail 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-Capes. And since we're on Superconnectivity, remember, follow Superconnectivity on Facebook, facebook.com/Superconnectivity Podcast, and Twitter @SuperConnectPod, and Instagram Superconnectivity.
Yes. I realize that's why I haven't been writing so much, because I'm talking more. And as I talk more, I don't feel as obligated to write because I'm talking. So I get my ideas out there. And so I don't write as much. And this is what I'm realizing.
But there's those weeks like, we'll hang up and 5 minutes later, you're like, "Oh, I forgot to mention, write it down."
Yeah, I know. I got to. I have to, Phil. I have to. Windows for taking away Word. Or not making Word as good as it used to be. I got to go to Google Docs, but then I have to go to a website. That's one more click. A whole extra click just to write. That's how the world ends. Are
we gonna have to teach you humility? Bring it all back.
I need to not be able to lift a hammer. Although as I get older, I am noticing that I'm not as strong as I used to be. And it's like, I used to have like superhuman strength, and now I'm like merely humanly strong, and it's like bothering me. Maybe it's just that my kids are getting heavier, but it's like it emphasizes the fact that I used to be able to lift my children so high and be so quick with it. And now it's like, kids are heavy. Maybe they're just growing, but
the great equalizer and the thing that teaches all of us humility, age, and time.
Oh, you know what's weird? I'm going to say this, and this may sound a little weird. I realized this when we got a bunch of interns at work. I am so not attracted to teenagers. They really, I like really see how young they are, and it is like frightening to me. Like, how are you allowed out of the house? Does your mommy know where you are? Are you lost? And these are like 18, 20-year-old kids. I'm looking at them like, Should you be out without supervision? Shouldn't you be somewhere else under protection? I can't deal with it, man. Kids that get young, and they're like, look, and it's like, I never noticed it before. And it's like, man, you kids are young, and it scares me that you're allowed out of the house. It's weird, man. Maybe I'm just too old, but it's like that difference is so frightening to me. How young they are, and how I don't It's like they're children and they're tiny, and I'm worried about them. But that's me. Hey, if you'd like to talk about how scary it is to look at children, children are scary. This is what I've decided. Children are scary monsters. There's one behind me right now. You can write to me in an old-fashioned email way, the way our Moz and Poz once did when they thought we were scary, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And of course, follow me on Twitter @Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Thank you for connecting with us, ladies and gentlemen. Please connect with us again.
German engineering.
There you go.